The most enigmatic queen to ever live, Bilqis, is actually mentioned in the Holy Quran. She became the wife of Prophet Sulaiman, ASM. Bilqis ruled over a powerful kingdom that extended from the lands of southern Arabia all the way into parts of Africa. There are astonishing things you probably never knew about her. Some legends even suggest she wasn't fully human, but part jinn. Could it be true? Could Prophet Sulaiman, who was given divine command over the jinn and made them serve him, have truly married a being part jinn? What do Islamic sources really say about that? But the origins of this tale don't start with a queen. They begin with a small, intelligent bird named Hudhud, a creature who could understand speech and carried remarkable news from distant places. This little bird played a vital role, not only in the transformation of a queen who once worshipped the sun, but also in altering the course of history by helping her embrace Islam. At that moment, the army was assembled, awaiting their leader's arrival, Prophet Sulaiman. But this wasn't just any army. It was one of the most extraordinary military forces ever recorded. It consisted of humans, jinn, birds, and a variety of wild animals. Even the wind was at Sulaiman's command, carrying him wherever he desired. Among the human troops were warriors on foot and cavalry on horses. The jinn warriors remained unseen, invisible to the naked eye. That was what made this force so fearsome. Many of its members couldn't even be seen by the enemy. Birds and beasts also formed a part of the ranks. Lions were the leaders among the animals, followed closely by tigers. In the skies, hawks and falcons soared in formation. Among them was the hoopoe bird, Hudhud, assigned with the task of intelligence gathering. Hudhud's mission was to fly far and wide, observe enemy movements, learn their secrets, and then return to deliver vital reports. This little bird held a role that was both delicate and incredibly important. As the army prepared for inspection, many of the creatures noticed that Hudhud was missing. Whispers spread through the ranks. "The commander is on his way. He will notice Hudhud's absence." And indeed, as Prophet Sulaiman approached, the murmurs grew louder. He sensed something was off. Hudhud was not with the army. In truth, Hudhud was far away, in the land of the Queen of Sheba. He had flown across vast distances, guided by a strong instinct that he was onto something monumental. He perched high on a tree overlooking the city. From his vantage point, he observed the streets, the homes, the grand palaces, and the fortified gates, taking in every detail. He felt something strange in the air. Something about the crowd's energy suggested a major event was about to take place. Curious, he approached another hoopoe native to the area and asked, "Oh, graceful Hudhud, can you tell me what's happening here today?" The bird replied, "The people are gathering for a special ritual. They're preparing to honor their queen, the Queen of Sheba, and soon they'll all bow to the sun." At that moment, Sulaiman's trusted scout knew. His intuition had been spot on. He observed the guards arrive first, followed by high-ranking officers and soldiers. Then, finally, the queen herself appeared, seated in all her majesty, upon a royal throne. She rose from her seat, walked to the front of the crowd, lifted her hands in the air, and bowed toward the sun. All her people followed her lead. Hudhud watched the entire scene unfold, his mind racing with thoughts of how Prophet Sulaiman would take this revelation. He immediately took flight. After many exhausting days crossing deserts and valleys, he returned to the camp where the army had been waiting. As he landed, he was met by an angry circle of birds. A tiny sparrow was the first to speak up. "Where have you been? Sulaiman was looking for you. You better have a good reason for vanishing like that." The tension weighed heavy on Hudhud's feathers. He wasted no time. He needed to face the prophet directly. He flew straight to Sulaiman's tent, his heart pounding with fear and guilt. Inside, the prophet was having dinner. Hudhud entered through a window and perched quietly at the edge of the table, carefully avoiding the prophet's hands. With his head bowed, he greeted Sulaiman softly and respectfully. He didn't dare look the prophet in the eye. Instead, his gaze remained fixed on Suleiman's hands and chest. Ashamed and trembling, Hudhud gathered the courage to speak. He knew one thing for sure: the Prophet always respected the truth. And so Hudhud spoke first. "My master," he began, "I bring news from a distant land, a place you've never seen. There I witnessed a woman ruling over a great people. She sits on an incredible throne and possesses everything one could desire. But she and her people bow to the sun instead of worshipping Allah. Shaitan has tricked them, making their actions appear beautiful in their eyes." These words struck with weight. Hudhud had revealed that his absence had not been in vain. He had been on a meaningful mission. Prophet Sulaiman listened and responded, "We must confirm if what you say is true. I will write a letter, and you must deliver it to them. Then wait and observe their reply." Hudhud took the sealed letter, clutched it in his beak, and soared off once again toward the land of Saba. Upon reaching the palace, he perched in a tree within the royal garden. He scanned the palace walls until he spotted a grand balcony that could only belong to the queen herself. With the letter still in his beak, he glided silently through the open window and took cover behind a large ceiling ornament. From his hiding place, he looked down and saw her, resting peacefully on her bed. Her hair flowed across her pillow, and her face was strikingly beautiful. As Hudhud gazed at her, a strange mix of admiration and sorrow filled him. How could someone blessed with such grace, such riches, such influence, still be lost to the truth? Still worshipping the sun, Hudhud thought to himself. Shaitan had deceived them, leading them to bow to something other than Allah. But how had he managed to do that? Hudhud wondered. If Prophet Sulaiman decided to send his forces against the kingdom of Saba, the outcome would be obvious. Yes, the queen was powerful, but there was no way she could stand against a prophet's army. His warriors could easily overpower them. Hudhud debated. Should he release the letter now, or wait until the queen fully awakened? He wasn't even sure what the message contained. As he was lost in thought, the letter slipped from his beak and softly dropped onto the queen's bed. Queen Bilqis slowly opened her eyes and spotted the letter right in front of her. Startled, she quickly glanced around, but no one was in sight. Fear creeping in, she picked up the scroll and read it in silence. From Sulaiman. "In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate, I call upon you to believe in the one true God. Do not act arrogantly against me. Come to me in submission." Her face tightened with anger. Again, she looked around the room, trying to spot the intruder. When she found no one, her fury grew. She shouted for her guards. "Who dared enter my chambers? Who delivered this letter?" The guards rushed in, bewildered. They swore no one had come near the room. "We were armed the whole time," they insisted. "Our eyes never left the doorway." They were truly confused. Above, hiding in a narrow crack in the ceiling, Hudhud listened closely to the chaos below. Holding up the letter, Queen Bilqis demanded, "Then how did this message get here?" The guards stood frozen, trying to guess, but none of them had seen a single person enter or leave. It made no sense to them. Queen Bilqis wasted no time. She called an emergency session with her council of advisors. Her ministers gathered quickly, and she addressed them with seriousness. "O trusted advisors, I have received a strange and important message. It's from Sulaiman. He begins by mentioning Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate. He asks me to approach him without pride. What do you think we should do?" One advisor stood up and said, "He wants you to surrender. It sounds like he's preparing for war. We should prepare for battle too." Another chimed in, We are a strong kingdom. Let us show him our power and respond with force. Most of the council agreed, leaning toward a response of aggression. But then, one wise elder asked calmly, "Where is the messenger who brought this letter?" Only the messenger can truly explain what Sulaiman intends. Queen Bilqis answered honestly, "I don't know. I found the letter on my bed when I opened my eyes. There was no one around." The advisor looked uneasy. "This is unsettling," he said. "If Sulaiman can send a message in such an eerie and mysterious way, imagine the kind of power he holds in battle. I suggest we wait and see." Queen Bilqis spoke again. "When kings invade other lands, they bring ruin. They turn the noble into the broken. I fear the same fate for our people. So here is my proposal. We send precious gifts with our messengers and observe how he reacts." No one objected. The queen's plan was agreed upon. Hudhud, still hidden, had listened to every word spoken. When the meeting concluded, he silently took off, flying back with the queen's decision. Word spread across the land. A royal gift would be prepared. It had to be dazzling, crafted with gold and jewels. No matter the expense, it needed to reflect the kingdom's glory. They turned to the queen and said, Sulaiman was known for his unmatched strength and fearsome reputation. Pleasing such a man would require a gift of exceptional value. The queen and her people knew their future might depend entirely on his response. So the kingdom's finest artisans began working around the clock, crafting a one-of-a-kind present. They used rare and precious materials. No cost was spared. When the masterpiece was complete, it was breathtaking. A golden tray, adorned with two majestic wolves, crafted from gold and embedded with dazzling gems. Queen Bilqis admired the magnificent gift and gave the command to send it to Sulaiman. Along with the treasure, she dispatched one of her trusted military leaders. She gave him specific orders. Find out what this prophet truly wants from us, and how strong his forces really are. But Prophet Sulaiman already knew what was happening in the queen's court. Hudhud, ever watchful, had been circling the outer regions of her land when he spotted the caravan heading out. He immediately returned to inform the prophet. Sulaiman understood the purpose of the gift, not only a gesture of goodwill, but a test to gauge his intentions and strength. So he issued a command: let the entire army prepare and assemble in formation to receive the queen's delegation. He also sent men ahead to meet them. I want them to feel overwhelmed before they even see me, Sulaiman declared. As the queen's messengers approached, they were suddenly faced with a breathtaking sight. A vast army stretched across the land. They began counting soldiers, carefully knowing the makeup of this enormous force. To their astonishment, the ranks weren't just filled with humans. There were lions, tigers, elephants, birds of prey, and other wild beasts. Even more shocking, they saw the army could move swiftly, with the help of the wind itself. Their eyes widened, mouths falling open in disbelief. It was a vision of might they had never imagined possible. When they noticed some weapons moving on their own, their fear deepened. "What is all this?" one of them gasped. A nearby officer, calm and composed, replied, "Oh, this? Just a small group of Jinn soldiers doing their daily drills." Now truly shaken, the messengers felt even more anxious to meet Prophet Sulaiman. But to their surprise, he declined to meet them in person. Instead, a senior commander welcomed them and invited them to a meal at Sulaiman's palace. As they entered the palace, surrounded by splendor and majesty, the messengers couldn't help but feel embarrassed. The lavish gift they had brought, which once seemed so grand, now looked insignificant next to the Prophet's kingdom. Still, they presented the gift respectfully, but soon after, the officer returned with the gift still in hand. He placed it on the table and said solemnly, "Sulaiman has refused your offering." Then he delivered the message from the Prophet. "Do you think your wealth can impress me? What Allah has given me is far greater than what you possess. Take your gifts back. If I come to your land, it will be with a power you cannot resist. I will humble you and drive you from your cities." The messengers were terrified. One of them gathered the courage to ask, "Please tell us plainly, what does Sulaiman want from us, so we can report truthfully to our queen?" The officer replied, "There's only one thing he seeks, that your queen and your people submit to him." The messengers understood. This was an offer of peace, but also a powerful warning. They quickly returned to Saba to deliver Sulaiman's response. When they arrived, the queen was still asleep, but her servants had been instructed to wake her immediately if any message came. So, despite their hesitation, they woke her gently. As Queen Bilqis opened her eyes, she immediately asked, "Well, what did Sulaiman say about the gift?" The messengers explained everything. "We did not meet the Prophet," they said. "One of his commanders took the gift, but Sulaiman rejected it. He returned it to us with a powerful message." They shared every word. The queen lowered her head in thought. Her gift had been declined. Her diplomats had been turned away. She continued questioning her messengers, wanting to understand every detail. They told her all they had seen: the army, the jinn, the beasts, the weapons, and the forces that traveled by wind. Bilqis realized the truth. Sulaiman would accept nothing less than complete submission, and with the strength she now knew he held, if she chose war, it would be her kingdom's end. The thought of losing everything she had built, her throne, her people, her legacy, now weighed heavily on Queen Bilqis. There was only one path left to try: persuading Prophet Sulaiman through peaceful means. As she looked at the rejected offering before her, she fell into deep contemplation. Then she made a decisive choice. She would gather both her royal advisors and her military strategists. Would two mighty kingdoms really go to war? The meeting that followed would shape their future. At the same moment, Prophet Sulaiman was holding a council in his own city. His assembly included ministers, generals, war tacticians, and men of deep knowledge. Two mighty lions stood silently beside the throne, serving as royal guards. The ever-watchful Hudhud bird was also present, ready to report any new developments. Suleiman began the gathering with words of praise. "I thank Allah for all the blessings of wealth, dominion, and wisdom He has granted us." Though he was deeply upset, his expression remained calm and composed. "How can it be," he said, "that while we live and carry the banner of Tawheed, there are still nations bowing to the sun? This is not just a disgrace, it is a failure in our mission." Suleiman did not rule for personal gain. He ruled for the sake of Allah's justice. That's why this matter filled him not just with frustration, but with duty. One of his commanders then rose, sword in hand, and declared, "Just give the word, my prophet, and I will tear down the throne of Saba and crush those who deny Allah." But Suleiman responded with wisdom, "I do not choose the path of destruction. I still hope the queen will come to us willingly. But before she arrives, who among you can bring her throne here?" A powerful jinn stood and replied, "I can bring it to you before you even rise from your seat." You know my strength." Then a scholar, one blessed with divine knowledge, known as a master of ilm al-laduni, spoke softly. "I can bring it to you before your eye even blinks." Sulaiman accepted the offer, and within a blink, there it was. The throne of Queen Bilqis appeared before him. It was as if it had been teleported across the land. No human had ever seen such a thing. The entire court sat in stunned silence, gazing upon the massive, regal throne. Even Hudhud blinked in amazement, struggling to grasp what had just happened. Back in Saba, both royal and military councils had gathered. Queen Bilqis led the assembly, and everyone in the chamber appeared pale and worried. In a voice weary but determined, the queen addressed them. "We are at a difficult crossroads. Sulaiman demands our surrender. He threatens to crush our power. I need your wisdom. How do we respond?" Most advisors agreed. Perhaps the queen herself should go, offering even more valuable gifts. A personal attempt at diplomacy. But if that failed, war would be inevitable, and a war against Sulaiman could wipe their nation from history. All eyes turned to the queen. She was their last hope. And so, she chose the bold path. She would travel to Sulaiman in person. Preparations began. New, even more lavish treasures were gathered for the journey. Meanwhile, Prophet Sulaiman understood that the queen misunderstood the nature of true power. She took pride in her land's prosperity, its technology and trade. But Sulaiman al-Islam wanted to teach her a deeper truth, that real greatness comes only through submission to Allah. True success is found only beneath the banner of Tawheed, the oneness of God. If you lose the world but gain Allah, you have truly won. But if you gain all the riches on earth and lose Allah, then what have you really gained? Being a wise prophet, Sulaiman not only brought her throne, but also commanded that its design be altered. When he saw a sun symbol carved into it, he said, "How foolish to worship the sun. Even if it were made of gold, it still does not deserve your bow." He ordered the symbol removed, and the throne's design transformed. At the same time, Queen Bilqis was finalizing her travel plans. She ordered a grand caravan to be prepared for her journey to Sulaiman's palace. Meanwhile, the prophet summoned the most skilled architect in his kingdom. He said, "Do you know why I have called for you? I want a palace built over flowing water, a place that appears to float. The entrance should be crystal clear, so that anyone walking in feels like they are stepping onto water." The architect replied, "If that is your wish, then I shall use pure glass for the floor, so the water beneath is fully visible." Sulaiman replied, "Yes, that would be perfect. Now tell me, how long will it take to build?" The architect answered, "If you allow the jinn to assist in the construction, we can complete it in just 2 weeks. But if only humans are involved, it will take much longer." Sulaiman agreed. "Then I will instruct the jinn to help. But I want the floor built exactly as you described. Transparent glass, so the water beneath can be clearly seen." The architect then asked, "Would you like me to design anything special for the ceiling or the walls, my lord?" Sulaiman replied, "What do you suggest?" The architect said thoughtfully, "I believe the ceiling should also be glass, so that sunlight can pour in and reflect off the water below, creating a stunning effect. As for the walls, I propose using mirrors to add beauty and light." The Prophet Sulaiman al-Islam was impressed with the idea and gave his approval without hesitation. He instructed the architect to begin immediately. With the help of the jinn, construction on the palace began at once. Soon an awe-inspiring structure began to rise above the water. As Queen Bilqis approached Sulaiman's territory, Hudhud awaited her arrival at the border, standing alongside a royal officer. On the journey, the queen began to notice unusual things. The stories her messengers had told were no exaggeration. This was a land full of wonders. The closer she came to the palace, the more astonished she became. She witnessed parts of Sulaiman's army, a force unlike anything she had seen. It was powerful, vast, and deeply intimidating. A chill ran down her spine, her heart pounded in her chest, and every breath felt heavier than the last. This army didn't seem to belong to mere mortals. It had the weight of divine power behind it. The more she saw, the more she began to question the greatness of her own kingdom. Compared to this realm, her pride began to wither. The illusion of superiority crumbled, and as she entered the city, a deep reverence settled in her heart. Her fear transformed into awe. Soon she would step into the most majestic palace she had ever seen. What awaited her was beyond imagination. Sulaiman's kingdom was not just a place of power and wealth. It radiated artistry, beauty, and spiritual force. Golden pillars lined the halls. Doors glimmered with embedded jewels. Every inch of the palace was decorated with craftsmanship beyond compare. But what caught her breath, what truly stunned her, was the palace floor at the entrance. It was made entirely of glass, beneath which flowed pure, clear water. The surface sparkled like a hidden pool, so realistic that it seemed as though one could drown in it. As Queen Bilqis stepped forward, she assumed the floor was water. To avoid soaking her dress, she gently lifted it, revealing her legs in the process. And here we arrive at one of the story's most mysterious elements. According to ancient sources, the glass floor was not just for beauty. It served a deeper, hidden purpose. Prophet Sulaiman had a reason for constructing it this way. As a prophet who could command the jinn, he had received subtle information. Rumors that Queen Bilqis might not be entirely human. Some whispers claimed that she was half human and half jinn. And Sulaiman, who understood jinn better than anyone, knew one thing. Jinn often had legs covered with hair. So the transparent floor was meant to look like water, to compel Bilqis to raise her garment and reveal whether or not she bore that hidden sign. And in that very moment, he would know the truth. Was Bilqis truly a human queen, or something more? But where did this strange belief come from? The idea that Bilqis was part jinn can be found in several cultural and religious traditions. Various stories across different texts suggest she may have been born from a union between a human and a jinn. According to one version of the tale, Queen Bilqis was born from a human mother, a royal woman, and her father was said to be an Ifrit, a mighty jinn being. This origin story explained why Bilqis possessed not only striking beauty, but also certain unusual features that made some suspect jinn heritage. The Quran itself does not clearly state whether Bilqis was human or part jinn. However, in ancient Ethiopian literature, she is portrayed purely as a wise and noble queen, entirely human. Those accounts focus on her intellect, her virtue, and her spiritual depth, rather than on any mythical lineage. So what do Islamic scholars say? Most renowned Islamic scholars agree Bilqis was fully human. The idea of her being part jinn is believed to have been fabricated by the jinn themselves. Why would they do that? Because the jinn feared that if Sulaiman married Bilqis and had a son, that child might inherit his father's divine knowledge and authority, and continue to command the jinn just as Sulaiman had. They had served Sulaiman unwillingly, bound by his mastery over hidden knowledge, and they desperately hoped to be released after his death. To avoid being ruled for another generation, they spread the rumor that Bilqis was not entirely human, hoping Sulaiman would lose interest in her. But Sulaiman, a prophet who knew the deceptive nature of jinn well, was aware of their tricks. Jinn were known to lie, not just in his time, but throughout history. That's why he devised the test with the glass floor. And when he saw Bilqis walk across it, lifting her gown to avoid what she believed was water, he saw her legs were perfectly normal, human in every way. His doubts vanished. After she crossed the crystal floor, Sulaiman invited her to view something else. He gestured toward a throne that looked strangely familiar. "Is this your throne?" he asked. Queen Bilqis stared at it, speechless for a moment. It looked just like her own, but something had been altered. Finally she answered, "It appears to be mine, or at least something very close to it." Beneath the throne, Sulaiman had placed a message, "We are among those who submit to Allah." As she examined the throne more carefully, she realized the shocking truth. This was her throne. It had been brought from her kingdom before she even arrived, and modified under Sulaiman's command. This moment became yet another sign for her, proof of the divine power bestowed upon the prophet. Bilqis stood quietly, lost in thought. The more she reflected, the more she recognized how hollow her people's beliefs had been in comparison to Sulaiman's wisdom and faith. Later that day, she was invited to dine. Sulaiman sat beside her and gently began to speak about Allah, the creator of the heavens and the earth, the most generous, the most high. He explained how the sun itself was created to serve mankind, just like butterflies, birds, and blossoms in a garden. To bow to a created thing like the sun, he said, is to dishonor your own mind. Humans were made with intellect and dignity. Worship belongs to the one who created the sun, not the sun itself. His words struck her heart like the rising of a new dawn. She began to see it clearly. The sun her people had worshipped for so long was nothing but a trap crafted by Shaitan to mislead them. For the first time, the brilliance of the sun dimmed in her heart, and a new light began to shine within her, one that would never fade. Just then her advisors entered the hall. They whispered, "The sun is about to set. It's time for our evening ritual." But the queen stood up, facing them with fiery clarity in her voice. "Fools," she said, "do you still believe the sun is worthy of our worship? Shaitan has fooled us for generations. He made our misguided beliefs seem noble. Leave this place and don't speak to me until you've heard what Sulaiman has spoken." Terrified and uncertain, the advisors quickly left the palace. For the first time, Queen Bilqis felt something beautiful moving deep inside her chest, like sunlight sparkling through a rainbow. Her heart was opening. Tears welled in her eyes as she accepted what she had been denying for so long. With sincerity and awe, she embraced the truth and submitted to the one true God. That very moment, she became a believer. And soon after, the people of Saba followed their queen.